He got up, the dogs trotted after him, and I trotted after the dogs. Who was my new father, you will ask? A half-breed gypsy, sir. A drunkard, a ruffian, and a thief, and the best friend I ever had. Isn't a man your friend who gives you your food, your shelter, and your education? Ozias Midwinter taught me to dance the Highland fling, to throw somersaults, to walk on stilts, and to sing songs to his fiddle. Sometimes we roamed the country and performed at fairs. Sometimes we tried the large towns, and enlivened bad company over its cups. I was a nice, lively little boy of 11 years old, and bad company, the women especially, took a fancy to me and my nimble feet. I was vagabond enough to like the life. The dogs and I lived together, ate and drank and slept together. I can't think of those poor little 4-footed brothers of mine, even now, without a choking in the throat. Many is the beating we three took together. Many is the hard day's dancing we did together. Many is the night we have slept together and whimpered together on the cold hillside. I'm not trying to distress you, sir. I'm only telling you the truth. The life, with all its hardships, was a life that fitted me, and the half-breed gypsy who gave me his name, ruffian as he was a ruffian I liked." "A man who beat you!" exclaimed Mr. Brock in astonishment. "Didn't I tell you just now, sir, that I lived with the dogs? And did you ever hear of a dog who liked his master the worse for beating him? Hundreds of thousands of miserable men, women, and children would have liked that man as I liked him, if he had always given them what he always gave me, plenty to eat. It was stolen food mostly, and my new gypsy father was generous with it. He seldom laid the stick on us when he was sober, but it diverted him to hear us yelp when he was drunk. He died drunk, and enjoyed his favorite amusement with his last breath. One day, when I had been 2 years in his service, after giving us a good dinner out on the moor, he sat down with his back against a stone, and called us up to divert himself with his stick. He made the dogs yelp first, and then he called to me. I didn't go very willingly. He had been drinking harder than usual, and the more he drank the better he liked his after-dinner amusement. He was in high good humor that day, and he hit me so hard that he toppled over, in his drunken state, with the force of his own blow. He fell with his face in a puddle, and lay there without moving. I and the dogs stood at a distance, and looked at him. We thought he was feigning, to get us nearer and have another stroke at us. He feigned so long that we ventured up to him at last. It took me some time to pull him over. He was a heavy man. When I did get him on his back, he was dead. We made all the outcry we could, but the dogs were little, and I was little, and the place was lonely, and no help came to us. I took his fiddle and his stick. I said to my 2 brothers, 'Come along, we must get our own living now,' and we went away heavy-hearted, and left him on the moor. Unnatural as it may seem to you, I was sorry for him. I kept his ugly name through all my after wanderings, and I have had enough of the old leaven left in me to like the sound of it still. Midwinter or Armadale, never mind my name now, we will talk of that afterward. You must know the worst of me first." "Why not the best of you?" asked Mr. Brock gently. "Thank you, sir, but I am here to tell the truth. We will get on, if you please, to the next chapter in my story. The dogs and I did badly, after our master's death. Our luck was against us. I lost one of my little brothers, the best performer of the 2. He was stolen, and I never recovered him. My fiddle and my stilts were taken from me next, by main force, by a tramp who was stronger than I. These misfortunes drew Tommy and me—I beg your pardon, sir, I mean the dog—closer together than ever. I think we had some kind of dim foreboding on both sides that we had not done with our misfortunes yet. Anyhow, it was not very long before we were parted forever. We were neither of us thieves. Our master had been satisfied with teaching us to dance. But we both committed an invasion of the rights of property for all that. Young creatures, even when they are half starved, cannot resist taking a run sometimes on a fine morning. Tommy and I could not resist taking a run into a gentleman's plantation. The gentleman preserved his game, and the gentleman's keeper knew his business. I heard a gun go off. You can guess the rest. God preserve me from ever feeling such misery again as I felt when I lay down by Tommy and took him, dead and bloody, into my arms. The keeper attempted to part us. I bit him, like the wild animal I was. He tried the stick on me next. He might as well have tried it on one of the trees. The noise reached the ears of two young ladies riding near the place, daughters of the gentleman on whose property I was a trespasser. They were too well brought up to lift their voices against the sacred right of preserving game, but they were kind-hearted girls, and they pitied me, and took me home with them. I remember the gentlemen of the house, keen sportsmen all of them, roaring with laughter as I went by the windows, crying, with my little dead dog in my arms. Don't suppose I complain of their laughter. It did me good service. It roused the indignation of the two ladies. One of them took me into her own garden, and showed me a place where I might bury my dog under the flowers, and be sure that no other hands should ever disturb him again. The other went to her father, and persuaded him to give the forlorn little vagabond a chance in the house, under one of the upper servants. Yes, you have been cruising in company with a man who was once a footboy. I saw you look at me when I amused Mr. Armadale by laying the cloth on board the yacht. Now you know why I laid it so neatly, and forgot nothing. It has been my good fortune to see something of society. I have helped to fill its stomach and black its boots. My experience of the servants' hall was not a long one. Before I had worn out my first suit of livery, there was a scandal in the house. It was the old story. There is no need to tell it again for the 1000th time. Loose money left on a table, and not found there again. All the servants with character to appeal to, except the footboy, who had been rashly taken on trial. Well, well, I was lucky in that house to the last. I was not prosecuted for taking what I had not only never touched, but never even seen. I was only turned out. One morning I went in my old clothes to the grave where I had buried Tommy. I gave the place a kiss. I said good-bye to my little dead dog, and there I was, out in the world again, at the ripe age of 13 years. "In that friendless state, and at that tender age," said Mr. Brock, "did no thought cross your mind of going home again?" I went home again, sir, that very night. I slept on the hillside. What other home had I? In a day or two's time I drifted back to the large towns and the bad company. The great open country was so lonely to me now I had lost the dogs. 2 sailors picked me up next. I was a handy lad, and I got a cabin boy's berth on board a coasting vessel. A cabin boy's berth means dirt to live in, offal to eat, a man's work on a boy's shoulders, and the rope's end at regular intervals. The vessel touched at a port in the Hebrides. I was as ungrateful as usual to my best benefactors. I ran away again. Some women found me, half dead of starvation, in the northern wilds of the Isle of Skye. It was near the coast, and I took a turn with the fishermen next. There was less of the rope's end among my new masters, but plenty of exposure to wind and weather, and hard work enough to have killed a boy who was not a seasoned tramp like me. I fought through it till the winter came, and then the fishermen turned me adrift again. I don't blame them. Food was scarce, and mouths were many. With famine staring the whole community in the face, why should they keep a boy who didn't belong to them? A great city was my only chance in the winter time, so I went to Glasgow, and all but stepped into the lion's mouth as soon as I got there. I was minding an empty cart on the Broomielaw, when I heard my stepfather's voice on the pavement side of the horse by which I was standing. He had met some person whom he knew, and, to my terror and surprise, they were talking about me. Hidden behind the horse, I heard enough of their conversation to know that I had narrowly escaped discovery before I went on board the coasting vessel. I had met at that time with another vagabond boy of my own age. We had quarreled and parted. The day after, my stepfather's inquiries were made in that very district, and it became a question with him.